Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining. We'll make a start in a minute or two once everyone else has joined, but very warm welcome to you.
Took place shortly after Mr. Trump used the meeting in front of reporters.
Just a reminder to pop yourselves on mute if you can, please. Thank you.
You don't need a contract. Always agree.
Okay, I think we'll make a start.
Yeah,
It's
well,
just gone
let's have a
past
look.
2 o'clock. Oh, just a reminder to pop yourselves on mute if you can, please. Thank you. Welcome to workshop 3 in our series of 6 sessions on non-financial misconduct. Today's session is focusing on enhancing detection and reporting mechanisms, and hopefully you can all see that on the screen in front of you. As a reminder, this is our market-wide series of sessions brought to you by the IUA, LIBA and LMA. And very pleased to welcome back Sunita Padda from Padda Consulting. He'll be leading the session once again. As a reminder, same format as the previous 2 sessions. So please grab your phones. There will be that opportunity for the mentee polling and an opportunity to discuss that as well. Once again, we'll have that virtual breakout discussion. So large firms, small firms, and we'll facilitate a case study as we have done previously. And once again, there'll be opportunity for questions at the end. So if you want to pop those in the chat as we go through, feel free to do so. Likewise, we'll also have time at the end if you want to ask those physically. Likewise, we will also share the slides and the recording with you afterwards. The breakout won't be recorded as it was before. A gentle reminder just to please pop yourselves on mute unless you're asking a question. We often do get a little bit of background noise, but very warm welcome to you. Thanks again for joining. And Sunita, over to you.
Thanks, Andy. So welcome to workshop 3 in our non-financial misconduct series. So today's focus is on something often overlooked, but deeply influential: how we detect and respond to concerns before they escalate. Detection and reporting are more than compliance measures. They are cultural signs. They tell people whether their voice matters and whether the organisation listens. So over the next 90 minutes, we'll unpack what it takes to build a trusted system, not just the technical one. We'll connect policy to behaviour, design to trust, and systems to lived experience. And as always, your reflections and experiences will shape this conversation. So I encourage you to engage openly with questions and any other viewpoints as we go through the session. A number of you reached out to me after the previous workshops with specific questions. So just to mention that Padda Consulting are offering a 30-minute one-to-one consultation for any company that joins these workshops. So that's your opportunity to ask us any questions, get some specific feedback. So do connect with us on LinkedIn and we can arrange that. But before we get started, I know Andy's already mentioned some of the housekeeping rules. The session is being recorded, so to comply with the transparency requirements under data protection laws, by participating, you acknowledge the recording. If you have any concerns, please let us know. As Andy's already said as well, please can you keep your microphones on mute during the presentation, but when we move into the case study breakout sessions, you'll be able to unmute to be able to fully participate in the discussions. If you have any questions, please pop them into the chat. We'll try to get through as many as we can by the end of the session, but if we do run out of time, we will create an FAQ document and share it with the trade bodies who will circulate it or make it available on their websites. So what are you going to expect today? So we'll start with the presentation as we normally do, then we'll move into the case study sessions. As always, we've got one designed for larger firms and the other for smaller firms. When we reach the case studies, you'll automatically be assigned to the correct group. However, there may be some people who haven't been assigned because you may have joined as a group, or you just haven't been assigned because you may have joined late. In that instance, just stay in the main room and somebody will go through a case study with you. I believe that's John today. John will go through the case study with you in the main room. So the case studies are designed to be interactive, and we really do value your participation. So somebody from the trade body will be in each breakout room to support and flag any questions. So please do put your hand up in the breakout sessions. And if you're anything like me, just shout. But it's important to note that the breakout rooms will not be recorded. So please feel free to participate openly and share your views. So when you move into the case study sessions, I suggest that you take a photo of the case study slide, so you've got the detail to hand to refer to during the discussion. And that was something that was fed back to us after the first workshop. So we've made sure we've put that in, openly say that to everyone in the rest of the sessions. There'll be some interactive polls. So throughout the session, we'll also have a few opportunities to get your input using the Mentimeter polls. So have your phones nearby so you can scan the QR codes when you're prompted. And we would love to hear from as many of you as possible. And we do provide the insights post-session as well. And then finally, the slides and recording from today's presentation, as Andy's already said, will be shared with the trade bodies and made available to all participants afterwards. And I'm not expecting any deliveries or anyone to ring my doorbell, but if it does go, that's the joys of working from home. So I may have to disappear for 30 seconds to run down the stairs and open the door. So thank you very much for joining. And now let's get started. So our objectives today, well, it's threefold. It's strengthen the effectiveness and trust in reporting systems, because a system that isn't trusted doesn't function, no matter how well designed it is. Identify how to spot early signs and any hidden risks through proactive detection strategies instead of waiting for those formal reports to appear. Ensure your detection and reporting frameworks align with both the regulatory expectations and your cultural health.
Or advice of us in negative situations.
These goals aren't isolated, they're interconnected. So trust supports detection, detection supports action, and together, hopefully, they'll drive integrity. So by the end of the session, you'll be able to describe the critical features of an effective and culturally embedded reporting system. Whoever's got the slides, can you change to the next slide, please? Thank you. You'll be able to describe the critical features of an effective and culturally embedded reporting system, identify what gets in the way of speaking up and how to remove some of those blockers, apply some behavioural science principles to the design of your detection mechanisms, and engage your teams in ways that support open, psychologically safe communication. So this isn't just about better processes, it's about creating a culture where silence isn't the norm and where integrity isn't optional. So let's talk about the cost of not speaking up. So what's the first one? The first cost is reputational. It's not always the misconduct that breaks the trust. It's the silence that follows. So if your people or the market perceive that you're indifferent or slow to act, that perception is really hard to shift. What's the second one? Well, the second is regulatory. Under SMCR, you're not just accountable for the outcomes, you're accountable for what you knew, when you knew it, and what you did about it. Silence can be interpreted as negligence, and that has serious consequences. And then finally, the cultural cost. Every time misconduct is ignored, minimised, or mishandled, your people get the message, loud and clear, that speaking up isn't safe and it's certainly not worth it. So over time, that corrodes trust, drives talent away, and creates a culture of quiet compliance instead of active integrity. So silence isn't neutral, it's a signal. And how we respond to it defines who we are as a firm. Excuse me. So a key insight here, a reporting channel isn't effective because it exists. It's effective because it's trusted. So in this section, we'll unpack what builds that trust. So effective frameworks include things like clear, well-communicated processes, accessible varied channels, evidence that concerns lead to action and not retaliation. So we'll also examine the cultural context. What implicit norms or signals might be discouraging reporting even when channels do exist? This is the difference between a system that complies and one that protects. What actually makes a whistleblowing system effective? Well, it's not just the presence of having a hotline or a policy, because I believe most of you have that in place. It's actually whether the system is safe, accessible, and trusted. So when we talk about safety, do people feel protected? Not just legally, but emotionally. If someone fears consequences, then they really won't use that system. And there's accessibility. Can every employee, regardless of their role, their location, or their shift pattern, they might work different hours, use that system easily? And you've got trust. Do people believe their concern will lead to meaningful action? So effectiveness is about experience. So if employees don't feel all three of these things, safe, supported, and confident in the system, then technically having a system isn't the same as having one that works. So this slide focuses on two critical principles that are often misunderstood or conflated: anonymity and confidentiality. I really can't say that word, but you know what I mean. Anonymity means the system allows someone to report without revealing their identity at all, often through a third-party tool. And confidentiality means someone's identity is known to the receiver, but is protected through the process. Both of them serve different needs. Some employees want total distance from their concern, and others, well, they're okay with being named, but only if they know it won't backfire. So you've got to ask yourselves, does your system offer both? And do your staff understand the difference? This is where fear and uncertainty can stop people before they start. Clarity here really does help build confidence. Accessibility. Now, this isn't just about having a digital tool, it's about practical and cultural access. People need to know, where do I go? How does it work? That it's for them, not just for others. So the key test would be, would the most junior, remote, night shift temp at your firm know how to raise a concern and feel confident doing it? If the answer isn't a confident yes, then accessibility is a risk factor for you. So now let's have a look at what it means to make access real and not just theoretical. Let's anchor our work in regulation, more specifically CISC 18. So what is CISC 18? Well, this sets out the FCA's expectations for whistleblowing frameworks within regulated firms. And it includes things like independent and clearly communicated reporting lines, measures to protect individuals who raise concerns from retaliation, and regular reporting on system effectiveness to your senior management. But here's what we need to be especially mindful of. The FCA isn't limiting its view to just statutory whistleblowers. While that category has a defined legal threshold, often tied to the public interest, the FCA's expectations are broader than that. They don't expect there to always be a clear public interest test. Their focus is on creating safe and trusted ways for concerns to surface, regardless of whether they meet a legal definition. And that leads us to the most important part. The FCA doesn't want to just see policy documents, they want assurance. Firms must be able to demonstrate that their systems aren't just in place, but they actually work. So this is where regulatory compliance meets cultural reality. Let's talk about who holds the role of champion. It's not just a title, it's actually a trusted role, a trusted function. The best champions are those that people gravitate towards naturally when they need a sounding board. They're accessible, they're emotionally intelligent, and know when to escalate and when to listen. They don't have to be in HR. In fact, some of the most effective champions we've seen are in compliance, legal, or even the operational teams. What matters is credibility, not the hierarchy. And that's why independence is key. While many firms use internal champions, we're seeing more use of third-party specialists too, especially for firms where being neutral is hard due to close-knit teams. It's not about employment contract. It really is about trust. Having more than one champion is often essential, particularly across sites or business units. It reduces those bottlenecks and reflects the diversity of your workforce. But once you've got a champion, they must be trained, not just once, but regularly. And that training should be recorded, just like any other role-critical capability. And let's not forget formal structures. If someone holds this role, it needs to appear in their job description and objectives. This isn't just an extra task. It's actually a very important core responsibility within your firm. A whistleblowing system isn't something you set and forget. Like any critical infrastructure, it requires maintenance, constant checking, tuning, updating. So what does that look like? What does good maintenance really look like? Well, that's regular reviews of functionality and relevance, the timeliness and quality of the responses, gathering feedback from people who use the process, tracking outcomes and learning from them, and reporting these themes to the board. As the slide says, you can't manage what you don't measure, and culture really is no exception. Even the best system fails if people don't know how or when to use it. So training should go beyond policy. It must show what raising a concern looks like in practice. This includes role-specific expectations, especially for line managers. They're the eyes and ears of the firm. Emphasize outcomes, not just the procedures. And behaviourally, people fall back on habit under stress. So if reporting isn't regularly normalised and practiced, then guess what? Silence wins. Let's talk about what really keeps people silent. Fear. So even if your system is anonymous or your policy is really strong, if people fear retaliation, whether that's formal or informal, they really won't report it. that retaliation might be being passed over, excluded, or subtly discredited. So your culture must say clearly, reporting is supported, retaliation is not tolerated. Protection isn't just legal, it's emotional and it's symbolic. So this second slide reinforces the point intentionally. Retaliation kills systems. It doesn't have to be overt. Have people seen or experienced subtle forms of backlash after raising concerns? If you've seen it, witnessed it, have you reported it? If you've experienced it, what have you received in terms of help? The point here is not only to protect, but to rebuild trust. And that takes acknowledgement, action, and most importantly, visibility. So now it's over to you guys. You'll see a set of options that have come up. What contributes most to building an employee trust in reporting mechanisms? So if you can scan the QR code, think about which one feels most powerful in your organisation, or which one is missing and holding your system back. So as you're voting, think from the employee's perspective, especially if you're from HR. What makes them believe that their voice will be heard? Raising a concern won't backfire, and that something will actually happen if they do speak up. Again, it's not just about ticking boxes. This is about building psychological safety at scale within your organisation. Still got some answers coming in. Give it another minute or so. Right at the top there, you can see visible leadership support. So when senior leaders actively talk about and model the importance of reporting, this has actually been a key theme throughout the presentation. It normalizes the behavior. Because silence at the top often signals indifference, even if unintentional. So that's a clear winner there if you look at that. There needs to be work around that leadership role model around the ethical behavior. And that really didn't surprise me, if I'm honest. Sorry. Right, so moving on. Thank you all for your participation in that Mentimeter survey. So let's move on. So when we talk about detection, most people think about the whistleblowing hotline or a flagged incident. But here's the truth. Most misconduct isn't actually reported through formal channels at all. It's either spotted in patterns, whispered in corridors, hinted at an exit interview, or worse, left completely unspoken. That's why we need to widen the lens. Detection isn't about waiting for someone to speak up. It's about building a system that notices what others ignore. So in this next section, we'll explore how leading firms are picking up on signals before they become scandals, whether it's data, surveys, manager behaviours, or team dynamics. It's all part of your early warning systems. Because silence doesn't mean safety. It usually means the system isn't catching what it should. Reporting is inherently reactive. Proactive detection is what gives us the chance to intervene before the damage is done. We all know it. We all put controls in place. We identify the risk, put controls in place so we can have proactive action. So what might proactive detection look like? Noticing patterns in disengagement, checking in with some of the isolated teams, using behaviour-based risk indicators. So we want to move from a model that waits for problems to one that gently surfaces them early and safely. Employee surveys as a detection tool. So surveys, when done well, are early detection systems. They can tell you how people feel about psychological safety, whether misconduct is being observed but unreported, where trust is thin. But not all surveys are created equal. We'll explore how to design them to pick up discomfort, not just satisfaction, and how to respond so people feel heard. Some of your most telling signals already live in your data. If you look at this slide here, are you connecting patterns in turnover, absenteeism, grievances, poor engagement to cultural health? Because when concerns don't surface formally, they often manifest behaviourally. So if you're only tracking outputs, not the cultural inputs, you're probably missing some of the vital warning signs. Now it's your turn again. So what challenges are most common for SMEs when it comes to detection and reporting? So while these firms do benefit from close-knit teams and agility, they're the firms that often face unique risks when it comes to detection and reporting. So let's hear from you. What's the biggest challenge here? Think about how informal structures affect the reporting routes and how leadership plays, what role leadership plays when lines of accountability are blurred. And is trust assumed rather than just actively built? And as we all know, in smaller firms, everyone often knows each other too well, and that in itself can create invisible barriers to speaking up. So we've got two neck and neck there. So we've got the informal cultures, lack of formalised processes. Is that the second? No, concerns about being anonymous. A few more answers coming in. If we take the informal culture discouraging reporting, so in small firms, everyone knows each other. So often raising a concern might feel like a bit of a betrayal or worse, a career risk if there's no protection for the retaliation. And concerns about being anonymous, yeah. So it's about being in those smaller firms. You know, often there's a belief that we're all good people here, but culture without structure can often lead to those blind spots and that silence. So that's interesting. Does highlight that in SMEs, trust and culture can both be strengths, and that, as we've seen, there are also some vulnerabilities there. Informality works until it doesn't. Detection and reporting need to be deliberately designed, even for the smaller teams, so that concerns around silence or good intentions don't actually get lost. So thanks again for your participation. Let's kind of canter through. So external signals, social media and reputation monitoring. So people don't trust internal channels, they go external. So what do? They might look like Glassdoor reviews, making, social media, everyone uses it. Social media comments, industry reputational flags. So let's have a look at how to treat these as useful feedback, not as PR threats. If your external reputation is more honest than your internal channels, then that in itself is a red flag. So technology, well, this can help, but only when it's designed thoughtfully. So are any of you using tech to spot any reporting trends, detecting keyword flags in anonymous feedback, identifying gaps in manager responses? Behavioral analytics, usage trends, and language tools can provide some really powerful insights, but the goal is always the same: to understand the risk early and humanely. So building a multi-channel ecosystem. So an effective system isn't just one process, it's actually an ecosystem. So what does that look like? So you could have formal processes such as the hotlines and the emails, have some informal processes, have some mentors or, peer-to-peer groups that meet, have some anonymous options with QR codes and surveys, and then have the human options, making line managers accessible, HR accessible, not just accessible, but trusted accessibility. Every employee should find a path that fits their risk level and personality. So that's why multiple paths make a culture safer. And reporting is often more natural because they know it hasn't got to go through this formal whistleblowing process. So this quote here sums it all up. If people don't trust the system or can't access it, then really there is no system. You've got to ask yourself, do your staff know the system exists? Do they know there are multiple channels? Do you have multiple channels? Can they access it across different roles, different locations, and different shift patterns? And do they believe it will help them? Or do they think it will hurt them? So access must be cultural and emotional, not just procedural. I'll give you an opportunity to scan the code again. So what are the biggest barriers preventing employees from reporting non-financial misconduct in your experience? Talked about the reporting system. Let's flip the lens. Think about your own organisation or others you've worked with or advised. What really gets in the way of people speaking up about non-financial misconduct? Is it the fear? Is it the lack of trust? Is it there's a broken loop? Things just end up in this big black hole? Yeah, again, I'm not surprised. There we've got belief that nothing will change. That's what we hear a lot. This one is deeply cultural. So if people have seen issues raised with no visible outcome, it creates apathy or quiet resignation. Because people often think, why should I speak up if nothing's really going to happen? And then concerns about being anonymous. When people aren't sure whether their identity will be protected, they often weigh up the risks. This is especially true in the smaller firms or close-knit teams, or at the top level, senior circles, where being anonymous can feel almost impossible. So again, not surprised. And then we have got fear of retaliation there as well. This is one of the most consistent barriers we see. And this one does speak directly to trust and safety. Again, if your organizations, even in organizations with formal protections, if someone's seen others getting punished or marginalized for speaking up, then that fear becomes real. Thanks again for sharing. This gives us a real window into the psychological barriers within firms. So keep these themes in mind as we explore solutions in the next section, particularly around what firms can do to lower these barriers and create a culture that truly listens. Talked a lot. I'm sure you've heard me say the word trust more than any other word through this presentation, but trust isn't built through slogans. It's built through experience. And we all know that with relationships, with anything else that we do in life. Someone could say, trust me. And you wouldn't. Trust is built. So it's built through that ongoing experience. So when someone does raise a concern, you've got to ask yourselves, was it acknowledged? Was it followed up? Was it handled fairly? Because if all of these things are happening and people know they're happening, the trust increases when staff start seeing issues resolved transparently, and decreases sharply when reports vanish or retaliatory behaviour is ignored. So I think that transparency around your process is really important to help build the trust. It's not who reported what, it's the kind of themes, like how many kind of non-financial misconduct reports did you receive? How many did you acknowledge? How many you followed up, and how they were handled? That just those numbers alone will start building trust within your organizations. And then visibility of your reporting options. This isn't just about putting a poster on a wall or near your coffee area if you're in the office, or something that pops up on your screen every morning when you log on. It's about whether people notice, remember, and trust what they actually see. So make reporting options part of onboarding. So those of you who do induction programs, is this covered in your onboarding? Do people know what they need to be doing? Is it covered in your team meetings? Is it covered in your leadership comms, your town halls? And is it covered in performance discussions? The easier it is to remember how to raise a concern, the more likely people are to act in the moment, not after it's too late. And empowering line managers and HR, because often these are the first human interface with the reporting system. I'm going to ask you, are your managers trained to respond calmly and consistently? Do they know how to escalate and how? Have you got these sub silos within teams where people might not feel comfortable reporting to their line manager? And is HR seen as a protector, or is it a barrier? Is it there to protect the employee, or is it there to protect the firm? So your system is only as strong as the first person someone will talk to. So linking reporting with compliance tools. So whistleblowing data must feed into your broader governance framework. And we covered this quite extensively in the INED session that was attended by the FCA. And so your INEDs, if they attended that session, will be expecting to receive reports on non-financial misconduct. They will be expecting it to appear in their risk registers and how these risks are being managed and mitigated and controlled. They will be expecting it to see it on the internal audit schedule, and they will be expecting culture dashboards. Because when these tools speak to each other, you end up getting the early warnings, stronger controls, and better assurance for the board and the regulators. Embedding values through visibility. This is where words become actions. So if your values say, oh, speak up, but then no one does, or even worse, when they do, nothing really happens, then I could say that your values are just decorative. You've got to embed them throughout your organisation. And how does that happen? Visibility of reporting data, recognition of those who act with integrity, real conversations about hard decisions, because values only matter most when it's uncomfortable to live them. And I think this is the old Mentimeter slide on here, or have I got, yes, this is one we've already done. Sorry, we seem to be having a little technical hitch. The first one, it's our 5th session, so just bear with us. Is there a way to fix that, or shall we move on? Is everyone seeing the same slide as me, which was the Mentimeter survey, or have I just made something up here?
We've moved on.
We've moved
get
on.
the breakout room.
Breakout room now.
Okay, thank you very much. Apologies, everyone, for that slight technical hitch there. So, as I said at the beginning, you'll head into 2 breakout rooms, each exploring a real scenario we've walked through. So, group 1 will focus on ABC Marine, our small informal firm where relationships replace systems. And group 2 will work on 123 Specialty, large company where processes existed on paper but didn't really translate into practice. You'll explore what went wrong, what was missed, and what could have prevented the outcome. This is about applying what you've heard today into the real scenarios. See if this sticks. You'll have 20 minutes for a discussion, and then we'll reconvene to share the insights. The goal isn't to critique these firms, it's to recognise the vulnerabilities that might exist in your own firms. So before we move into the breakout rooms, just a few little quick reminders. Please do remember to come off mute when you're in the breakout sessions. Please be lively and participate. So if you've got a coffee next to you, take a big gulp. We strongly encourage everyone to contribute. The more you share, the better and more useful the session will be, not just for you, but for everyone. We'll give you, when we say we will give you, there'll be a little 5-minute warning that pops up on screen. And when the session ends, it does end rather abruptly and you'll come back into the main room. So I'll apologise now if you're mid-flow and mid-discussion. And if it's a question that's left unanswered, please do put it into the chat and we'll try and pick it up in the FAQs or at the end of the session. If you're assigned to a large firm case study, you'll be coming with me. And if you're assigned to a small firm case study, you'll be going with my colleague, Stuart. And don't forget, take a picture of the case study, because if you're anything like me, you'll have forgotten what is said on the slide. So just take a picture with your camera and then that'll make it easier for you to participate. So I'll see those in the large firms very soon. Thank you. Apologies to anyone who was mid-conversation. And again, if there are any questions that anyone still had and they were left unanswered, then please do ask them at the end. And if we don't have enough time, then put them in the chat or email them and we will provide responses in the FAQs. So let's bring it all together now. So key actions to take forward. Again, I'm going to use that word. Build systems, people, trust, not just ones that exist. So again, that word trust. So building those systems that people will actually trust. So, and equip the first point of contact, people like your managers and HR to handle these concerns and not just handle them, but handle them well. Using these trends, outcomes and missed signals as your culture diagnostics, and align your framework with regulation and experience. So this is really how you start moving compliance to credibility. And we heard from one firm in the large firms where they are using some of this, where they are building that trust, where they have got a formal channel and they have introduced informal channels, and how well that is actually working. So it does work once you start building that trust and experiment with different things. It does start to work. And now I will take a break again. So what are the biggest barriers preventing employees? We're back on the same question, I think. And is the Mentimeter not working? Shall I just move on?
Yeah, go to the next slide.
Okay. So here's a recap of the most effective elements. So we've got consistency. Every concern is handled reliably. Visibility. Staff know where and how to report, as we discussed. It's not just about putting a poster up on the coffee stations. Yeah. Accessibility. So everyone can use the system regardless of their role. Trust. Follow up and protect are visible, not just promised. So you've got it in your policy that we will follow up on this, and there will be no retaliation for anyone who's making a report. But what it's got to do, it's got to do more than that. You've got to show that in the evidence. Integration, reporting insights linked to risk, audit, and training. So these are all your cultural building blocks. So next steps and call to action. So as the slide says, change doesn't need perfection, it needs movement. So what will you do with this? What's your first conversation you're going to have after this session? What's the one barrier in your firm that you would want to remove? And how easy is it? Is it a quick win? And what's the signal you want your people to see most in your organisation? Starting to make these subtle changes. Pick one thing that you are going to change from tomorrow. Think about the informal reporting channels, not just having a formal whistleblowing line. Think outside the box, because this is how you're going to start moving away from theory to action. So I mentioned at the start that we're offering some 30-minute sessions as a one-to-one consultation, but here's your chance. You can ask some questions. It's over to you guys. So please feel free to put your hand up, and Andy will let me know if someone's got their hand up. Put the question in the chat. Or as I said, I'll pause for a minute. I'll stop talking for a minute and see if anyone wants to. Bianca's got a hand up.
This isn't really a question for you so much as the wider group, but has anybody got experience, or is anybody tracking any metrics about the link between grievances and performance? So, I mean, where people are put on the PIP and then raise a grievance. There was a bit of chat about this a while ago, but I wondered if anybody had any views.
Anyone?
Hi, it's Amanda from Argenta here. I mean, I think it's throughout my HR career, they do tend to, it's quite a common link, so it wouldn't be unusual. I mean, probably a complaint about the manager that only raises its head once you start a performance improvement plan, or more commonly now, I think we tend to see people sort of being unwell or going off sick, actually. And I do think perhaps some of it is the discomfort around performance management, and perhaps if conversations were started earlier, and that management capability being better able to give feedback at a sooner point, you might not hit the point, but it would be less of a surprise, I suppose. And I think that's usually the element that means people react in such a way.
Yeah, there's different things that happen across different firms. It could be that there's a performance issue, but there's also a management style issue. There could be lots of different things that go on, but there is kind of a noticeable trend around when people do make reports of non-financial misconduct that they often take stress leave or time off sick, and often it's longer periods of time. And if this is happening in your organisation, think about how much that's costing you as well.
Hi, it's Tolga here. I have a different view on that. If you have enough number of PIPs and grievances that you can track statistically, then you have bigger problems, I think. Because having 2 grievances a year or 2 PIPs a year is not a statistical study. And that's probably what we have. I don't know. Maybe I'm lucky.
Do you do kind of reporting on non-financial misconduct? Do you pick up on trends and stuff? Because it's about linking it all. It's like, one is the risk, one is how many times people have used a formal channel, informal channel, how quickly these things have been dealt with. And then you look at that against your sickness rates, your attrition rates. It's about tying that data together and trying to get the full story. I mean, I know there's one firm here that's doing a lot of work in that space, as we kind of got to hear in the case study session. But is it something that others are doing? I don't expect people to share what they're doing in their respective firms, but it's about what people are doing, what they plan to do, what they take away, and what they start doing when they. And it will also be interesting to see if any of your INEDs did attend, and when it's the next round of board reporting, how many of them do actually ask for the information if it doesn't exist already. I'm not asking you to come back and tell us, by the way, but it'd be nice if you did. Anyone got any other questions? Right, this is the one that's going to finish slightly earlier then. Just last couple of slides then. Part of a bigger journey. So next session is going to cover investigations, governance, positive culture reinforcement. So we have kind of, they are all different sessions, so no two are the same, but it doesn't mean to say you should have come to all of the earlier workshops to keep up to speed. It depends what area of interest you have in this whole non-financial misconduct process. So the next workshop is on the 24th of July. And then the workshop 5 and 6 will be in September. So we've got one at the beginning of September and one at the end. And here you have got the different contacts, whether it's the LMA, LIBA, or the IUA and Padda Consulting. So please feel free to contact anyone on that list if you have any further questions. If they're related to the session itself, they will get directed to us. So feel free to come through your trade bodies if you have any questions, or come directly to us. It's entirely up to you. And then we'd really appreciate some feedback, because we believe that the candid feedback thus far has helped shape the session today. So please do provide us with positive or negative feedback. Trust me, I'm thick-skinned, I can take it. It'll only take a minute, so I'm going to leave that slide up and I'm going to hand over to Andy while you're all scanning this QR code and giving us the feedback that we've just asked for. So thank you all for your time and hope to see you on the 24th. Andy, over to you.
Thank you once again, Sunita, and Stuart as well, for facilitating the breakout on the small sized firms. Really appreciate it as always. Thanks everyone as well for your contributions. It does make the session much more enjoyable and interactive if we get questions. If nothing else, it's nice hearing a different voice rather than Sunita all the time, and that's not a dig at Sunita, far from it at all, but it does make it much more interactive, so thank you for that. As I said at the beginning, we will be sharing the slides and the recordings with you over the coming days. Likewise, the invite for the 24th of July session will be imminent, so please do accept that and get it in your diaries. And maybe also make a note for those final 2 sessions as well once we come back from the summer break. Thanks again. Really appreciate you all turning up. Please, as Sunita said, just take a moment just to click on that QR code. Apologies, we had some tech gremlins again with Mentimeter. It just doesn't seem to like this, does it?
It works
but
for
we'll
all the
s-
other sessions though, Andy. I think this is the first time we've
It
had.
is. It is.
yeah.
It's just joys of technology, right? Anyway, we will see you in a month's time. Thank you again, and 15 minutes to go and grab a cup of tea. How's that? Thank you.